I'm CK. Today we've got a module from Axis Modular. This is their locking delay. It's a digital delay unit with locking feedback, which could be interesting. So we'll put it together, see how it sounds, and I hope you enjoy the video. And here's the bag. So pick this up from thonk.co.uk, as I do many of my modules. I'm adjusting my light a little bit there. And let's open her up. See what we got. We got one bag that's unmarked. It's got a 1 on it, I think, though. Got this bag. It's got a 2 on it. Here we've got some sockets and ICs. Eurorack cable. Some knobs. These are okay knobs. They're no locking screws. They're just plastic. They're not great, but they're okay. Here's the front panel on the circuit board, I'm pretty sure. And based on what I'm seeing here, more... Oh, look, I got some... There was some purple dye. Oh, this actually... Huh. Might have rubbed off on me. Looks like there's probably a bunch of surface mount already installed. But we shall see. It's got some very strong packing tape on here, not just cellophane tape holding it shut. Well, maybe not. Here's the circuit board, and there is, in fact, no surface mount. Good. And the front panel, take a look at it. It's probably the delay knob, and there's the lock level, the mix, input level, feedback level, input, and CV for delay time, looks like, because it's got a little clock, matches that little clock. That's very nice, by the way. That's the way you design a front panel, so it's clear what things are doing, and the output. So that looks pretty good. And we've got the board. This is very much, this is surface mount quality circuit board, even though it's not. This is version 3, 2002. A couple of pots, the jacks as we saw, and I don't know what that'll be. PB1, we'll take a look and see what that may be. It's interesting. And then the delay time. On the back, we've got thank you to my family, thank you Gaz Williams, thank you Mr. Wiggly, thank you Thonk. Thanking everybody. And we've got resistors and caps. The values are not marked, so we'll have to have a build guide. I'm pretty sure it's on Thonk's site. And we've got one IC, a PT2399. Let me look that up real quick. And a PT2399 is a CMOS Echo Delay Reverb processor by Princeton Technology. So that's what's doing all the hard work. And then over here we've got a TL074. Oh, that's just op amp. And I think that's all. And then we've got a transistor here. We got a voltage regulator. It's a 78L05 5-volt voltage regulator. And a couple of caps. I don't see any LEDs, but I don't see any LEDs on the front either, so I shouldn't be looking for them. So that's it. And we can open up these other packages, but we will as we go along, since they've got the jacks and the resistors and the capacitors and all that. We know pretty much what's going to be in there. So I get the soldering iron heated up, and we'll get this thing put together. And I got the build guide from Thonk's website, and it's a very good build guide. Lots of pictures and lots of very conversational instructions. I think this would be a great first kit for somebody. start with the resistors, as is typical and as the build guide suggests. And as you can see, they've put the values on all the resistors, so you don't have to try and figure out what the colors mean, because it's 2023 and learning resistor colors is something I did when I was in 1968. We should be well beyond that. What it doesn't have is it doesn't have the locations, but the bill of materials and also the pictures in the build guide show you where they go. So pretty straightforward to put together. So let's put one down. We'll do R1. First we have to find it, and it's down here. We'll see how much we have to bend the legs in. We need to bend the legs in right up against the body, seems like. No extra slop. If they had gone with quarter-watt resistors instead of half-watt, might have been able to do right with a little splay, but they didn't. To be safe. And let's see how it takes solder. Oh, just dandy. Okay. So that looks fine. So we'll go ahead and go silent, because we've talked pretty much all about anything interesting with the resistors. So I will put the cameras in fast playback and clip a bunch of the video out also, because you don't need to see great detail in putting a lot of the same resistors in. So enjoy resistor time. And that's resistor time for today. Pretty quick. Not that many resistors. And now we're going to do the capacitors. I think, unless I'm going to do it in the build. Oh, we're going to put the diode on. Where's the diode? I just saw it. There it is. 2 diodes. And they go where you would think. Here's the power connector. Here are the polarity protection diodes. Oh, and I said you wouldn't have to bend them so close if they were quarter watt. They do have 1 quarter watt resistor in the kit. I mean, I don't really know why. It's not an unusual value. I don't know why they didn't stick with half watt all the way through. But maybe they got a real deal on them. And the white stripe is very clear on the circuit board, letting you know where the diodes go, in what orientation, since polarity is of course important. Oh, and then he does suggest we do the diode sockets next. I mean diode sockets. Integrated circuit sockets first, before we move on to the caps. And they are, I think they're different sizes. Yes, they are, because the op amp has fewer legs. So we'll just set that in there like that, making sure the notch lines up the right way. Rest it on with my pinky finger on the back of the board. Then solder one leg, let it cool, then take a look, make sure it's flat to the board, and it's not completely flat. So I'm going to press it with my forefinger, reheat that leg, press down, and now it's fully flat to the board. Do the same thing to the other one. And now we'll do the 5104 caps, the decoupling caps. And as is most typical, these are decoupling caps for the ICs. Oh, that's a 103. We won't use that one yet. Decoupling caps for the ICs. So we will look for their positioning around the ICs. So C4, C5. And we've got a bunch of box capacitors, film capacitors. So put all these, double check these are the right part numbers. Okay, 63, okay. C6. Again, I'll probably speed through this. He says to put the power regulator on next, but I'm actually going to put this other capacitor on next, just so I can have the capacitors all done. Double checking it. Yep. And I think I'll put the electrolytics on too. Actually, no. Never mind. I'll go back to doing it in order like a... And now we'll put the power regulator on. That's not the power regulator. That's the 78L05 power voltage regulator. Flat side of the component to flat side of the printing on the board. Now the one transistor. Clip it out of its tape. Bend the leg back a little bit. Bend the other legs in a little bit because the solder pads are smaller than the transistor itself is, which is interesting. I'm not going to solder that quite yet. Got that in place, and now we'll do the electrolytics. Are they all the same value? I guess they're all the same value. Ten micro, 10 micro, 10 micro, 10 micro, and 10 micro. And there's a very clear indication on the board about the polarities, so you know the long pin goes in the hole marked with a plus sign. And if you accidentally trim the leads, this side with the stripe on it, with the negatives on it, goes in the hole that does not have the plus sign and has the outline has a slightly heavy bracket to it. I mean, indent, printing to it. I don't know what exactly to call it. So I'll go ahead and solder all these things I've set up. Now, put the power header on. I wonder where it is. Probably in this bag. And there it is. And it's got a gap for the keying and the power cable, and the gap goes there, as indicated on the board, but I always like to double check. and put the keying in there, and it shows up on the red stripe side. Unfortunately, where it says red stripe is covered by the box header, usually it's outside of it so you can actually read it when the box header is installed. But maybe their board layout software didn't support that. And that is all the soldering and components for this side of the product. We'll leave the ICs out for a little while. One thing I will do before we move on is go through all these solder points. Make sure, number one, I've soldered them all. Be surprised how many times I've skipped stuff. Number two, the solder joints all look okay, and nothing is bridged. And everything looks okay, so time to move on to the front panel components. First, let's put the green pots on. And we've got a 25K, and I forgot to take the panel nuts off, so it's a little boring. 25K, 25, or 50 it says. That's interesting. Get that in there. And then we've got another panel nut. And this is a 10K, and it goes over here in mix. And then the last one is 100K for lock level. And we're not going to solder these yet because we want to make sure everything lines up. So the time pot, which is the 2550, is 25K, which will give a nice clean delay. You can swap it for a 50K, which they didn't include, which will give more noisy, slower delay times. I guess I'll start with the 25 as it is. I'm not looking for noisy delay. And then we've got the two other pots, but I'm going to wait on them. Actually, because I want to put the switch on first. Ooh, this is not being too... Oh, okay. It's not too bad. I don't think... Oh, yeah, it's got a flat side here. It's got a flat side here, and there's a flat side on the circuit board printing, so you can get that correct. Then we'll put the two blue body pots on. 1 and 2. And now, again, I apologize, I was lazy and I didn't take the panel nuts off first. Now we'll put the jacks on. Just set them in place. I always put the jacks on last because they have no grippy in their little circuit board holes, so anything that jounces them will cause them to bounce out. And sliding pots in often jounces the board because of their support legs. Now, we'll set the front panel on it, like so. Oh, that went on really easily. That's nice. And I'll get my little clamp, find some clean places to clamp it, and everything is in place nice and tight. And we'll go ahead and solder all these connections. I'm going to solder the switch first because it's got a little play in it. In other words, between the ring around the bottom of the switch and the front panel, there's a little gap. So if you're not careful, you can bounce it out. And it won't be flat on the board underneath. And that wouldn't be good. And now we'll do all these other connections, so I'll speed the playback up again, because it's just a bunch of soldering. You do have to be careful right here between these these caps. To make sure you don't rest your soldering iron against them. And my water heater came on, it's a little loud, so I'm going to turn the volume down again, and I'm going to put the panel nuts on and put the ICs in. And here we are. ICs are in, power cord's in, the knobs are on, everything works smoothly. Here's the front, here's the side, the back, the other side, the top, and the bottom. Let's go put it in the rack and have it delay a little bit for us. Okay, we're in the rack. Let's power it up and see if anything catches on fire. Yesterday, I had an extension cord that's been out in my backyard for about 5 years. I picked up the end of it. Foot-long flame shot out of 2 of the outlets. It was fantastic. I didn't have my camera with me. You would have loved it. Power it up. And this should be drawing 30 milliamps on the 12-volt rail and 7 milliamps on the negative 12-volt rail. So let's see what our little thing says. So 27 on the plus, so that's a little less than 30 milliamps, which is nice. And then on the 12-volt rail, I'm getting 6. So it's doing a little less than advertised, which is always good. And I've got my Cycles LFO over here driving the sequencer and driving Frequency Central, more VCAs, and I'm using a Bafaco even VCO as the sound. So let's see, let's bring it up. Bring up the input level. Let me turn that, slow that down a little bit. Now we'll start adding it's a nice little delay. I'm going to turn the VCO LFO all the way down. Actually, I'm going to turn it back up. Turn the delay up a little more. It's a fine amount. Turn it up some more, all the way up. It's the mix. Lock it. Turn up the feedback level some more. Lock it. Take feedback all the way up. So as he says, this is a popular pedal noise in reggae. I think you've heard that on some King Tubby cuts and Mad Professor. Let me turn the LFO up a little more. It's a little too much. That's pure. I'm going to take the LFO very slow. I mean, that just sounds really nice, doesn't it? Just a little taste of it. A lot of it. All of it. Now I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to take output of the second LFO, and I got to trace this pink wire. Output of the second LFO into so now the LFO is driving this. Oh, that sounds neat. I'm going to turn up the clock LFO. Very cavernous. I love it. Very 1950s SF. I'm going to turn the LFO for the clock way up now. No, I like it better slower. Oh, okay, I think I could play with this all night. I really love this. Two things about this kit. Three things, actually. Number one, it sounds really great, first and foremost. Number two, it's pretty straightforward to understand. There's not a lot of controls. There's not a lot of ins and outs, so it's going to be easy to use. And three, it was very simple to, or straightforward to put together. So I think this would be an excellent first kit. I'm really impressed with this. I'm going to get some more stuff from Axis Modular and see how the other stuff is. And I hope you enjoyed the video.